Hello, I'm Greg Hunter. Thank you for joining us today on USA Watchdog. Peter Schiff is with us again. He is the CEO of Euro Pacific Precious Metals. Peter Schiff, thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me on.
Hey, a couple of your most recent articles, one of them about the explanation, your assessment about why the Germans asked for their gold back, I think is one of the best ones that I've read out there. Also, the S&P lawsuit. Let's start with the German gold. Your assessment, your explanation as to why Germany has asked for its gold back, or at least part of its gold back, over the next, 7 or 8 years?
Well, I don't know that they asked for it over 7 or 8 years. It's just that the United States told them that it was going to take that long to deliver it. But it makes sense to me that Germany would want their gold within their own borders. I think a currency crisis is coming. I think central banks are going to need gold to back up their currencies. And, one of the things I think the Germans might be worried about is what happens if the United States nationalizes the gold within its borders because there's some kind of monetary emergency. And then Germany can't get it. So I think it makes sense to ask for it now. But, I think they need to speed it up.
Well, supposedly we have, more than 8,000 tons of U.S. gold, and then we're holding the gold of many other nations, like 6,000 tons, something in that neighborhood. And you're saying that the U.S., if there's a crisis, they may say, your 6,000 tons, we're taking it.
Yeah, I wouldn't put it past them. And certainly we are headed for a monetary crisis, a dollar crisis. And so I would be nervous if I had my gold in the United States, knowing that. So I would want to get out while I could.
What do you think about this sequester coming up? You're probably one of the people in the camp that says it's probably a good idea to cut something.
Well, we have to cut a lot. It's a great idea. The more we cut, the better. The only problem with the sequester is the cuts are so trivial that they're not even going to make a difference. Yet they might not even be enacted because these cuts, as small as they are, still seem to be too much for Congress to bear. But as far as should we allow the sequester, absolutely. But that's just the first step in a very, very long journey. We need much bigger sequesters. We need much deeper spending cuts.
And the fight over the debt ceiling, I mean, couldn't this kind of set off a run on the dollar? If everybody gets the idea that, we're never going to get paid back in anything resembling the buying power of the dollars we loaned them, I think we'll sell now. Could that set off a
eventually, but look, people are selling gold now. People are buying into this myth that the economies are recovering, that the stimulus worked, that gold's going to go into a bear market, that if there's no inflation. So who knows when people are going to wake up to reality. But eventually, sure, there's going to be something that pricks the bubble. It may well be the debt ceiling debate or, the fact that, I think the U.S. is now pressuring the G20. The language of their new communique supposedly is going to remove any references to governments getting their debts under control. And that's based on pressure from us. We don't want any official pressure to reduce our debts. We just want bigger and bigger debts.
How anybody can look at what's going on with the $85 billion a month, 0% interest rates through the middle of 2015. I'm sure they'll extend that. How anybody could think holding dollars is a deal, I don't get it. Do you?
No, but there are a lot of people who are making that mistake. But, in the short run, investors are notorious for getting it wrong. They got it wrong in the housing market. They got it wrong in the dot-coms. They're getting it wrong with gold. They're getting it wrong with Treasury bonds.
Well, let's come up with this housing market thing. The S&P, the rating agency, has been sued by the government. It's a $5 billion lawsuit. And to think that they are the entire cause of the housing crisis, it's just outrageous to me. Well, what does this mean?
Well, first of all, look, S&P was operating under the same delusion as everybody else, that real estate prices could never fall. People that were buying bonds that were rated by S&P, they were delusional too. I mean, they should have done their own due diligence. I mean, who cares what S&P thinks or Moody's or Fitch? Because the government requires that bonds get rated by these companies. Otherwise, pension funds aren't allowed to buy them. So it's a rigged game. The government rigged the game. They shouldn't be surprised that the ratings are no good. But to come back now and sue S&P for believing what everybody else believed, look, I was one of the few people out there that saw the housing bubble and was warning about it, and people thought I was crazy. People laughed at me. That's what would have happened if S&P downgraded these bonds. They would have been laughed at. They would have got the same reaction I got. Now, there might have been a few people that worked at S&P that might have saw through the nonsense, and maybe they even sent some emails. But the vast majority of S&P employees were just as clueless as everybody else. People that worked on Wall Street, people on Main Street who were buying houses, people in Congress. The real reason for this lawsuit is because S&P downgraded U.S. Treasuries. That's what they did differently from Moody's or from Fitch. And the reason they're being sued, in my opinion, is not only to punish S&P for what they did and to make sure they don't do it again, but to send a loud message to the other rating agencies, you better not downgrade U.S. Treasury. And it's kind of ironic because the reason that S&P is being sued now for not downgrading the mortgage bonds is because they did downgrade the Treasury debt when the Treasury bonds are just as junk as the mortgages were. I mean, people who own Treasuries are going to lose a lot of money, just like people who own mortgages. But it might not be because the Treasury defaults, although it might be, but it might be because they repay with worthless money because they have to print it.
The idea that S&P is the Lone Ranger here, I mean, don't the banks realize they sold liar loans? They packaged liar loans.
Well, of course, they called them liar loans. The people, they knew they were liar loans. That was the name of the loan. I mean, they called them no doc, but everybody referred to them as a liar loan. So everybody knew that they were a lie, yet nobody cared. Why don't they sue Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac? Why don't they sue the Federal Reserve? Why don't they file criminal charges against Chris Dodd or Barney Frank,
And when it all blew up, they committed forgery and perjury that they called robo-signing and fraud on the court because they didn't have the documents to back up to take the houses. It's outrageous. It's outrageous.
And all of this was made possible by the Fed. The Fed kept printing money. They knew what they were doing. They knew they were inflating a housing bubble, but they didn't care because they liked it. It felt good because people thought they were getting rich. We were spending money we didn't have. It was a giant party, and the Fed kept spiking the punch bowl because it didn't want anybody sobering up to the reality that we were broke.
And the last question, you must be getting some heat from your clients with this little weakness in gold and silver. What are you telling people about this?
Our clients have been buying gold and silver, many of them for 10 years, so pullbacks are par for the course. They understand that you're going to get short-term pullbacks. We don't try to time the market. We're not trading in futures and options. We're buying physical gold. Our clients are taking delivery at Europe Pacific Metals. At Europe Pacific Capital, we're same thing, or maybe we're buying some mining stocks, which have been taking some hits recently as well. But anybody that's been in this market knows that all of these dips have been buying opportunities, that all the naysayers, oh no, it's a bubble, it's burst, the bull market is over, get out, sell your gold. We've heard it all before. They've been saying this the entire rally. When gold first hit 400, then 500, get out, it's a bubble, you're going to lose all your money. Yet it keeps going up. And you hear people now saying there's no reason to own gold, the financial crisis is over, the global economies are healing, everything is fine. Well, everything is not fine. We're facing a worse crisis than ever. And the only reason people think that the economies are improving is because the government has printed all this money. It's because we're inflating like crazy, quantitative easing, 0% interest rates. That's how we got out of the woods. But that is very bullish for gold. In fact, there have never been more reasons to own gold. There are trillions of reasons. The fundamental case for gold has never been better than it is right now. And the people who think the bull market is over don't even understand the bull market. Most of them missed out on the whole thing anyway. Maybe some of them bought too late because they thought gold was about political instability or a financial crisis. No, it's about how governments respond to those crises by printing money, because they're too irresponsible to do the right thing. They don't want to level with the voters. So rather than cutting government spending, they just continue the deficits, and the central banks monetize them. We're having a currency war, and the winner is gold, because gold isn't participating in that war. Everybody else is trying to kill themselves, but you can preserve your purchasing power by by owning gold. More people are going to figure this out. We're going to shake out these weak hands, and then I think we're in for the mother of all gold rallies.
Let me tell you, one person who figured it out, and I think this is very telling. Bill Gross over at PIMCO on his company website told people to not be buying things you can easily reproduce. Buy things you can, quote, sink your teeth into. And one of the things he named was gold. And this is a guy with $2 trillion under management. You're not alone, my friend, and you're not crazy.
Yeah, I don't know if I want to try to sink my teeth into it. It's kind of hard. But you could bite it. That's for sure.
All right.
Just don't bite down. But yeah, you want to buy things that governments can't create out of thin air. The cost to the government of printing a $100 bill is the same cost as printing a $1 bill. It's the same cost as printing a $1 trillion bill. It doesn't matter. But obviously, 100 ounces of gold is 100 times as valuable as 1 ounce of gold because you have 100 times the gold. It takes 100 times the effort to mine it, to fabricate it. So that's real. And the money supplies are going to be exploding, and the supply of gold is going to be constrained, which means the price of gold has one way to go long term, and that's up.
Peter Schiff, CEO of Euro Pacific Precious Metals, thank you for being on USAWatchdog.com.
Anytime.